Hello everyone, welcome back. Been a little while. We've rolled into a new season here, the springtime. Got all the birds singing, the leaves are out in the trees and everything. It's gorgeous. So I got started on a project here, tearing down a donor truck that I got for an LS swap for the C10. And right about the same time, we started my son in daycare as our parental leave for both my wife and I had run out, and he started bringing home cold after cold. So I'd been sick for like 5 or 6 weeks in a row with sore throats and coughing and stuff because I was catching everything he was bringing home. And weather got unpredictable and everything, so it's just been forever since I've been able to be out here. But I'm gonna follow up this little bit with my original intro for this video, which I started 2 months ago, way back when. But I'm going to be getting into today, trying to wrap up removal of the fan shroud, radiator, so I can get to the core support that I'm going to be reusing on the 85 C10. I can use this core support to mount everything. So I won't use the upper portion to mount it. I just need a segment to cut out of the bottom of it. But yeah, I'll get this thing set up and get started on the work, and in the meantime y'all can catch the original intro for this video from way back when, and I'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Josh here. Starting off today, we'll be working on tearing down the donor vehicle. So this will take several days. I'm going to take my time doing these extractions. I'm not in a huge time crunch, so I'm going to try and show as much of what I'm doing step by step as is practical. And what I'm starting with is the throttle pedal. So I've got a 2006 model 2500 HD with a 6-liter and a 4L80E transmission. That's a drive-by-wire setup, so electronic throttle pedal. Thanks, birds. Anyway, with this throttle pedal, there's a tack module that comes with it that's in the firewall, and then one harness that runs from the tack module to the pedal itself. So I unbolted the pedal a little earlier. Very simple. Here's the pedal that I have. This one's this plastic injection molded, so not easy to modify to fit how I want. And I'll show you what the issues are with this pedal on the C10 here in a moment, but fairly simple to get off. There's one bolt right here, one bolt on the top side, and then the electrical connector. This is fairly easy. You pull up on the red piece and then get your little flat screwdriver. I like using the little pocket screwdriver. You can use a awl or whatever, but just gently get in there and pry up slightly on the tab. Pulls right out and the pedal comes out. And there's the bracket here, and the harness is attached to that bracket with that plastic clip there. Then goes up onto the firewall and goes into these little clip pieces before coming out and going through a grommet. This one has a little zip tie on the last one. I'm not sure if that's factory or what, so I'm gonna have to clip that one before I can get it out. And then there's just a firewall grommet to peel off, and it should all extract out of there pretty easily. But anyway, I'll grab the pedal out, and I'll grab my little bracket here, which I'll talk about in a second. So with this pedal that I've got, I'll show you on the truck, the offset from where the mount position is to where your actual foot pedal position on the truck is set up in an odd way. All right, so the pedal that you extract from your donor vehicle, if it looks like this one from like a 2005 on up, it's this plastic piece, and they use it for a long time. But you see the extreme offset to the right side compared to where it mounts. On square body truck, the mount position is right here, and the pedal is essentially in line with it. And you've got a above it is where that's the actual cruise control module and the electrical connector for that, which I'll be tying into actually later. And I won't need this cruise control module to hook up what I need, because we'll be using the wires from the original column stock going to this connector to wire directly into the tack module. So we'll be able to pull this, and that'll actually give us room to move things over. So what I've got, I stuck their sticker on their plate, but on eBay you can look up Liquid Creations, and you can find they have different adapter plates that pick up the same 3-hole mounting position right here from the gas pedal for this cable driven one off the original truck, and it mounts to the same hole pattern on this bracket, and then their bracket offsets the mounting position of the pedal to the left so that the pedal location comes out appropriately. I'll give kind of an idea about that right here. I won't have it bolted up because things are still kind of in the way. But if you see, if you move the pedal mount over to the left a little bit, you actually have some useful pedal location on the right hand side. So supposedly that one works well. I'll see how that works myself when I get around to installing that in a little bit. But first thing I wanted to do was just extract the pedal that I had and put it up to the bracket to make sure I've got the right bracket that fits it. And it does, so that's good. So now that I've got the pedal out safely inside, let's go grab the harness and get that out through the firewall. All right, came into the engine compartment side. I'm going to show the harness. So here's the tack module, and it's the later style. There's an earlier style that is just an all plastic one, and this one which is plastic with like an aluminum backing. And there are different pedals that go with the different tack modules set up. You can look up the cross-referencing for which one goes with which. My recommendation is, if you can possibly do what I'm doing, which is just grab the $35 bracket and use the pedal that came with your donor vehicle, if at all possible, do that, because mixing and matching can be kind of a pain. The cross references exist for which ones to use. There's a pedal from like a 1-ton diesel Chevy truck from the 90s that can be used, which is apparently like a direct bolt-on onto the truck, and then you like repin a wire harness, but it's not the harness that plugs into this pedal, so you have to swap it around. Like, it plugs into the same location here, but the other end has a different plug. So there's some with like 6 pins, some with 9 pins. Just, if you can use the same pedal from your donor vehicle, go with that, because you know everything like mixes and matches appropriately. But anyway, this is your throttle pedal connector, and it just goes down, loops around, and goes into the firewall grommet right there. So once I get that zip tie cut on the inside, then I should be able to just pull on this, get the grommet to come through the firewall, and the connector should come through the firewall hole and everything come out, and that's that extracted. So let me cut this last clip and start getting this out of here. So here's the harness for the throttle pedal. There's the connector for the throttle itself, grommet, and then the connector into the tack module. Now, I discovered that the grommet was actually easier to push in from the outside than to try and pull through, as the flange mating surface is right here, not on the other side, so it didn't want to compress the heavier bulk of the stuff over here. This side was more giving, so I just pushed it in. There's plenty of room to get this connector through the hole, and then whenever I do this install, I will be making a matched hole to the one that was on the firewall on the donor vehicle for this grommet to sit in, and it'll be all neat and tidy and like a factory installation. So the plastic tab that was going into the original throttle cable bracket, I just snipped that off because I I'm not going to be using that. You know, I'll wire tie this up, little zip tie, once it's in the truck, just to be as neat and tidy as it can be, but I'm not going to be reusing like this clip, so I went ahead and cut that off. But there's the throttle control there, or the cable for it. Now the tack module is really easy to get out. It's just like 3 bolts with like or it's actually 3 studs with a 10mm nut holding it on. So I'm setting the cable with that throttle pedal so I don't lose it. So that's part of my plan and approach for this particular project, is going to be taking my time for organization. So not trying to get this like extracted in a day. You know, I'm gonna be out here for a while slowly removing this stuff. So anyway, the next part I'm going to move to while I'm in here in the cab anyway. Well, one thing I'm going to do is the panel right here in front of the fuse panel there has the nice fuse removing pliers and a few extra fuses. I'm going to use those pliers and extract all those mini fuses out, because you use the same ones on the main fuse panel that I will be reusing on the truck, so might as well just grab them off and have them. And then I'll be removing the OBD2 port there, because I will be wiring that into my truck, so I will have a diagnostic capability on it. And I'm also going to wire in a check engine light, just so I know if there's any issues going on. So yeah, here next we'll be pulling out that OBD2 port. Alright, something I didn't mention right there at the start, but should go without saying, but good to mention it anyway. At the minimum, remove your negative battery post, or what I recommend, take the battery out altogether before you start messing with any of the wiring stuff, like disconnecting the foot pedal. Unless you're going to go through a wire diagram and find out what's constant hot and what's not all the time, best not to be cutting on stuff and removing and plugging in electrical components with the battery still hooked up. You know, safety first, especially like pulling connectors through a firewall, that kind of stuff. All right, now that we've touched on the importance of having your battery unhooked before doing any electrical work, it's important for the OBD2 port, because there's actually constant hot going to this, so you don't want to be messing with taking this thing out, especially the way I'm going to do it here with power running to it. So there's a 7mm socket to get the screw out that holds this up into the dash on this truck. Probably the same on yours, but no guarantees. Anyway, we'll zip that out. Why does it have to be an inch long shank to hold a plastic tab on? I do not know. It seems a little excessive, GM. Anyway, get that out, and then I'm gonna pull some of the wire back, get my little flush cutters, and just cut it up there. There's a zip tie I can see. I want to get as much length as I can, but I am going to be tying into that so I can have an OBD2 hook up on this new one. So I see where it runs into the rest of the wire loom with some tape, and just get up there and snip these wires off flush up there. Ta-da! So I'll be depinning some of these, and actually this one might be ready for it anyway. I'll take a look and double check with my wire diagram. But anyway, I think purple is your data, red is your power, and then there's 2 grounds, black with a white stripe and then a solid black. And that's all it takes for running your diagnostic tool, or you can plug in like a digital dash or something that has an adapter. But that's a good thing to grab out of here. And yeah, other than harvesting the fuses, I think that's everything we need out of the inside of the truck here. All right, moving into the engine compartment, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the PCM connector for the tack module, and then just pull the 3 nuts and off, and take the tack module off the studs and go put that with the throttle pedal and the cable for that. So I keep everything together and organized. And then I'm going to start working on getting the battery box out of here. You know, this is an interesting design that GM went with on these things. They had this fender brace and the core support going directly over the battery on these things. If I'm on the side of the road with a dead battery, or in a parking lot somewhere, my battery's died and I've gone to grab another one, I do not want to have to disassemble the braces on the truck just to get a dang battery in. So whatever GM engineer did this, booed that. That's really dumb. I know you need a brace, but you can do something that's not in the way. That's a little ridiculous. Yeah, whatever. When I had one of the trucks from this era, I didn't own it long enough to have to swap the battery out, so I didn't actually pay attention to that. But and it was a 4.3 V6, so it had a little more room than the V8s do. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, come on, GM, ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna just start stripping certain larger items. Take the bumper off, pull the headlights out, take the hood off, and we'll get back to this after I get some of that stuff stripped down. Well, you know me, I like to stop and investigate interesting items. This qualifies. Lower door hinge. It's like it's been cut off and a new plate welded back in place there on that spot and then painted over. Very interesting. Pardon me. I noticed something was weird when I tried to get the nut off that stud. It was short and spinning in there. And when I took another look, I saw this booger painted over. I was like, and there's some temperature scarring. I guess it's on the fender, not on this piece, but yeah, it was cut off at some point. Don't know exactly why, but just interesting to see. But got the driver's side fender off here. Not too difficult. Bolt here, bolt here. There's 2 on an L-shaped bracket right there. I got the tack module off from this spot. These are the studs that it was attached to. I actually grabbed the washer bottle that was in good shape. Stole that off because it was reusable. It looked pretty good. Another thing I'm going to do, I don't have the horns, I don't think. Either misplaced or they're hiding, or I threw them away or didn't get them. Anyway, the horns for that 85, I don't recognize or remember where they are. But there's a horn right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip off the harness right here and then unbolt it and reuse the horn. Like the gift that keeps on giving here. But yeah, got the fuse box unbolted. There's a little bust right there in the plastic. That's unfortunate. So yeah, it it suffered a violent death here, the truck did. So you can expect to see a few things like that. But I think that'll be pretty well hidden from what I'm planning to do for mounting that on the fender. So I don't plan on going and finding another box. I'll just reuse this one. I'm making a little angled bar that goes and comes up so I can bolt it through on this lower part and give it some support there. And there's a bolt right here. And then this is actually a really cool design. Clamp the camera up here. There we go. GM designed this, I guess, well enough to be serviced. So there's a flip tab on either side, and you can lift the whole panel up, or you can just pull this one and rotate it up. Now that this tab broke, I think I'll go ahead and And look for another one of these base boxes, because this one is brittle and it's already broke here. So. Now for an episode of tools that are really cool. These ratcheting pipe cutters. I think they're more like for plumbing PVC type stuff, but they work great. Like, you ratchet them closed and then just pull on the handle and they pop right open again. But they work great for cutting things like the body harness. I'll just give an example on this one section of it, and you can get it. There we go. Move up, cut through again. There, it's starting to cut through the wires, making a nice slice. One more, and it cuts right through. It's like super nice. There we go. Sorry about the glare, but yeah, these things super handy. So little helpful tip there. Well, I got the fenders off, so I've got a lot better access now to get the motor mount bolts out. Took a little while to get this fender off because it was the more maimed up one. I was thinking about reusing the air box, but there's the mounting plate for it. It's kind of janked up a little bit. I could straighten that out, but also like this upper piece, the tab up there is broken that holds it in place, and also I might just go with like a K&N type filter element like right here and support it off in the corner, something like that. I don't know, I'll figure that out later, but I'm gonna leave the air box on for now and not tear it off, and the bottle as well. Just now got some rain and stuff coming up in the next few days. I'm not gonna be able to quite get to what I wanted to do here for the core support today, but I've been taking my time. It's not a big deal. So anyway, let's get the camera down in here and show you what I'm going for. So you can see this little bent section. That's the lower portion of the radiator core support. I'm actually going to use that portion and straighten it out. So there's a little rubber ring piece that sits in this plastic bit that I'll go on the other side. The sun's a little better for it, and here you can see it. I think from the impact it kind of bumped it up and out. It's rotated like that at the moment, about 45 degrees. But that rubber grommet piece sits inside of a pocket, and there's the same pocket in the bottom of the core support along that straight piece. So what I'm going to do is whack that lower section out of this core support and just set it on top of my existing one, and that grommet will sit in that hole, and the radiator will sit in that in the lower section and hold it in place. And all I have to do is make a bracket or a tab, or maybe get this to bolt. I'll see what it looks like when I get around to it, but make something to hold the upper portion of the radiator, and it bolts into place. So that's what I was wanting to extract this kind of gently. I've also been cutting off connectors for like the lights and turn signals and all that kind of stuff, so not needing that, but just gently extract everything so I can get around to this. You know, pull off the cooler for the I think power steering cooler, trans cooler. There's an engine oil cooler, and there's actually a little bit of weeping going on down there. I don't know if it's the rear main seal or just that oil cooler adapter. I'll probably just grab the block off plate for that and seal that off. You know, that's got an oil cooler to keep things, you know, happy whenever you're pulling a heavy load, towing, you know, going up a long grade or whatever. I'm not going to be using this engine for that anymore, so I think I'll be just fine just capping it off and running it without that oil cooler makes things less complicated, and there's less leak points, less joints you got to deal with. But yeah, I got this box off, got the PCM off of its mount. At the moment I'm going to take this bracket off. I might use that bracket to mount the PCM, or I might use a custom one off of the fender. We'll see which way I want to go about it when I get around to that. But I'll take the bracket off for now, just so I've got it whenever I figure it out. But I've got the tack module here. But I'm going to grab a bag and bag this box and the tack. I think I'll just take the tack module off and go put that inside. But since it's going to be a few days and we've got some weather coming up, I want to keep some of this stuff from just having the weather all pouring right in. Not so much worried about the PCM, because it's, you know, usually uncovered like that as it is if you're driving around and everything. This thing, though, I'd rather not have water just pouring straight in the top of the fuse box if I can do that. So I'll go grab a bag, wrap it around, zip tie it around where the wires are here, and then the next day I come out here, finish extracting the radiator and the core support and clearing the bumper and everything out of the way, so I can get a nice clean shot at the motor and yank that out. So I'll be back for you guys in just a moment. For me, probably a couple of days. Appreciate you all waiting me out for the time since the last video got posted. So get you caught up. About the time I was filming my last video, the first half of this video, started my son at a daycare. Our parental leave had ended for both my wife and I, and we had to head back into work, and I started catching colds and all sorts of stuff that he was bringing home for quite a while. I think for like 5 weeks straight I had like a completely clogged nose and cough and everything, just like 3 different things hammered at me one after the other. And then the weather was bad, so I just haven't wanted to get out in the garage and do anything. I haven't wanted to do any sanding, obviously, because with the sinus pressure going on, who wants to wear a mask over their face or anything like that? And then it was just the temperatures had dropped early and got a little cold, and then rainy and wet. It seemed like any day on the weekend that I had available to do something, the weather conditions weren't ripe for it. But finally getting back out here. I've also got some shades going on, not just trying to look cool, but I had LASIK while I was gone. So for about a month I'm supposed to wear sunglasses anytime I'm outside, even on cloudy days. So that's why I got these things on. But and I was wanting to wrap up this particular video this past weekend, but my daily driver F-150 over there decided that it wanted a wheel bearing to go bad in the wheel hub. So I had the fun of tracking down which hub was actually bad. That was an interesting one. I'll go ahead and talk about that and share, maybe if anybody else ever has this issue, they might be able to save a little bit of diagnosis or be a bit of a help. But so on my truck, I had a wheel bearing going out. I could tell because I heard the standard hum, and you could feel the vibrations going on through the steering wheel, right? And as I was driving down the road, if I was going along like a long sweeping left-hand turn, or if you're just going down the road and you wiggle the steering wheel a little bit, every time it would go to the left and kind of load up the right wheel, like that's, as it leaned over to the right and put more load on the right wheel, I would feel and hear louder noise, right? So I grabbed a wheel hub for the truck, which is actually universal for either side on that era of F-150, and I changed out the passenger side and took it on a test drive, and still heard my noise. So apparently what was happening was when the weight was unloading the driver's side wheel, it was causing the vibration. But it was really frustrating because when I went to do the job, I jacked the front of the truck up, put chocks on, or the jack stands underneath the frame and everything, so it was all level, both wheels were up off the ground, and I go to spin and wiggle on the wheel and stuff, and I couldn't feel looseness in either wheel hub, and I couldn't feel a grindingness or a tightness, a difference in preload or anything like that on the bearings when spinning it around. So that was frustrating, because I'm used to when a bearing goes out, you can really tell which side it is. But the only clue that I thought I had was that which side was loading up, and I was thinking, well, the side that would be getting loaded more when I'd be turning would be the one making more noise when it loaded. Turns out it was the other way around. So anyway, you can comment if you've seen that or whatever. But oh, and another thing, a good and bad, those Fords have a really good design for a maintainer for swapping out the hubs. It takes 30 minutes in my driveway to do. The bad part is it went out at 56,000 miles. Like, you shouldn't be having a wheel bearing that you have to replace at 60,000 miles, even parking this thing outside all the time. Like, it shouldn't be going out that early. But the nice part is you don't have to, like on a two-wheel drive, you gotta pull the rotor off, press your bearing races out, press new races in, all that. With the two-wheel drive type truck, it's just a bolt-in hub assembly, everything together. But because it is a bolt-in hub assembly, instead of being like $30 a pair of wheel bearings like it is on that 85 C10, it's $250 for a wheel bearing assembly. So yeah, not a lot of fun. So actually what I did on that truck, whenever I had put the new hub on the passenger side, took it for the test drive, didn't fix the problem at all. I actually pulled the driver's side off and stuck what was the passenger side bearing on the driver, rather than removing everything and swapping it around. So now I've got a brand new one on the passenger side, the old right side on the left side, running backwards to the way the bearing wore in for the first 56K. So coming up here in the next couple of days, I'm going to stop by the store and grab another bearing just so I have both brand new. Put a new hub on the driver's side so I'm not running it backwards, because I'm not that keen on running a bearing opposite the way it broke in for a long time. That's just kind of an issue of when you know the rules, you can break them for a time. There's no vibration or anything. It feels really solid, so I'm just gonna leave it for a couple of days until I can get around to it. Today's video, where I'll be trying to remove the fan shroud, radiator, get all this stuff out of the way. And then what I'm aiming for getting is actually the lower portion of the core support. The way I'm going to be mounting the radiator in the C10, I'm going to use this radiator or maybe like a brand new replacement of that same style of radiator, using the lower portion of this core support bolted to the original core support for that truck, instead of getting like a LS swap radiator that's like $300, $400, $500. You can get the cheaper parts store factory one for this 2005 2500 HD, which I know will cool this engine with air conditioning on it and everything, and it'll fit in the other truck. So get wrenching here. I already drained the radiator in the block a couple of weeks ago. Left the radiator drain plug open for like 2 days, just doing a slow drip into the pan, so it should be pretty well drained out. There's still going to be some in there, I know, but drain out as much as I can. Let's see, do I want to deal with that? Move around to the other side so I can document where the other stuff's going. Got the return line from the overflow attached up here. Want to get off.
tell you something that I do like with doing these YouTube videos is that I can go back and look at this stuff how it's put together later as a reference. You know, I used to take a lot of pictures with my phone on stuff, but sometimes you don't remember context of exactly what you're looking at, either angle that you're looking from, something like that. So the video version is pretty helpful in keeping track of what I'm freaking doing. So this is your ever famous steam port for getting air bubbles and stuff out of the heads on these trucks. Important to hook that back up if you are doing a different style of radiator, some aftermarket thing. You've got to plumb that in, because that is how the hot spots get out of your heads. You get the steam port that allows the air bubble that's trapped in there sometimes when you fill up to get out. I still have my cooler lines attached to the radiator for the transmission and the, well, I think the power steering cooler is an external one. Yeah, the engine oil cooler is the one on the driver's side. So those could get a little messy. I've left the air box and the tubing and stuff for that, because I don't want the throttle body open and expose the elements. I knew this was going to sit out here outside for quite a while, so that's why I'm kind of fumbling around with this stuff sitting here in the way, is that I don't really want to open it all up to the atmosphere to get water in the throttle body just yet. Go ahead and put that back just so I don't lose it. Although I might go and grab a constant tension spring clamp style one for that instead of the worm drive. I like them a little better. They don't seem to mar the rubber as much as these worm drive ones do with those flat slats. Not opposed to running them. It's just, if I can grab a spring version of it, I like to do that. There's no coolant leaking here. Nose growing. Nice long bolt in that one with a built-in washer. Got a rubber vibration isolator in there as well. I will need to tie in the upper piece into the upper part of the core support on the other truck, but I don't exactly know how I'm going to do that just yet. This one's for the radiator and this one's for the fan shroud. All else fails, grab your 10mm. At least on this 2005 donor truck, pretty much everything is metric. on that 85, they were all spastic because they were in the middle of a changeover to metric, so you got to mix a half metric and half SAE fasteners, and it's a real pain. Like, I think this is a 7/16 or 9/16. Nope, 10 millimeter, 12 mil. Got a 3/4 inch. Nope, that's 16 millimeter there. I find it annoying. And just be all one way or all the other. That's something that whenever I was in college getting an engineering degree, made it twice as difficult going through getting an engineering degree in the US than, say, Europe or something, because I had to learn how to do all of the physics in both SAE, like imperial units, and metric system, which the metric system was a heck of a lot easier in the unit conversions and stuff for engineering. So, and then it throws me because I get into the engineering world where in school most of the time I would use metric units, but we occasionally had projects where we did have to deal with imperial units. But in the working world in the US, all imperial stuff, you know, we're dealing with inches, pounds, all that kind of unit nonsense. So it's like, I don't mind working in one system or the other system, but I hate when stuff is like mixed together. It's just a pain. So, my mini rant of the day. What do you know? It actually broke free. That looked pretty rusty. Don't usually advocate using a pair of channel lock pliers for taking nuts off, but in this particular instance on this cooler, since I'm not reusing the nut and I don't care, I'm fine. I'm gonna go grab a drip pan. Just pouring oil all over the ground if I don't have to. So I got the block off plate to eliminate the engine oil cooler from the truck, or from the engine block. There's a little takeoff right by the filter, 2 lines, and you know, on these things, whenever you're doing towing and you know, heavy applications for the heavy-duty truck, the engine oil cooler keeps the engine cool. But for using it as like a, you know, fun drive it to work on Friday, weekend cruiser, whatever that I'm planning on with the other truck, the oil cooler really, it won't hurt it to not have that. So I'm going to be deleting the oil cooler when I do the installation. So here's an adapter piece that was on the the core support. This is a plastic spacer. It's got the little tab right there that goes into the bottom of the core support. Now what I'm wanting is the metal core support there. So you see these are two slotted holes, the other side are two round holes. The inner ones are for your standard duty radiator, and then the two outer ones are for your heavy duty radiators from the bigger trucks. I think there's like a Cadillac Escalade has the big one and stuff. So I'm going to be running the heavier duty, larger radiator since this 2500 came with it. But yeah, you can. All you got to do to use this in the other truck is to cut down. Well, as far over. I'll trim it up later, but I'll cut it over, and then right along here before it steps up to this like tube channel piece. So cut over there, all the way across, and then back up, and then just drill a hole. I mean, this is a hole already, so I might reuse that one. Kind of depends when I made it up over there. But yeah, drill a through hole, and then you can use like a 3/4 inch or 1 inch nut as a spacer through that bolt hole to space it up just above the bottom of the factory core support. Or in this instance, what I think I'm going to try and do is like take the rubber biscuit bushing out of the front shock and use that as the vibration isolator for the bottom of the radiator core support on this build. So taking parts from one area and use them in different spots. So I'll either use this upper biscuit, or I might use the one for the bolt through for the lower mount for the shock. Haven't figured it out yet which one I want. Kind of depends on the height stack up and how the radiator looks on the other core support. But the plan right now, cut this out and then put one of those rubber bushings underneath that hole on either side, mate drill the new core support, or the original core support for the holes on the new core support, and just bolt it together. So yeah, all I got left here is just extract this thing. I've got it all loose, so take the radiator out. This one's a little beat up from, I was like, I don't know if this space right here, and there's one on the bottom, is actually supposed to be there. Now I'm going to do a little bit of looking, because this was in a wreck, and you can kind of tell there's a little bit of a wrinkle by that bolt there. The bumper is pushed in, but this is not a very expensive radiator from like O'Reilly or AutoZone or whatever as a replacement part. And then yeah, forever in the future on this thing, if I have it or someone else down the road, all they have to do is go get a radiator from a 2005 2500 heavy duty Silverado truck at the parts store, and it'll bolt right into this one, instead of using some Chinesium eBay aftermarket one, which will work, but if you get, you know, an issue and you have to replace it, then maybe your custom mounting for that doesn't work on the new one and you got to custom mount it again. So I want to try and avoid that kind of stuff. Go. All right, got the radiator out. So look here, the radiator is on a little post and sits in this rubber bushing, and that bushing goes in the core support. It's slotted, so it can go over here, over there on this side, and then circular on the passenger side, the slot there. So that's how the bottom of the radiator is held in place, and that's why I'm taking this core support to put it in the other truck is that I can use these little biscuits, and it holds the bottom end. And then the only thing I have to do is make a little tab for each side for this top piece to bolt to. So as long as it can't move forward and back, the bottom is held in those holes on the bottom side, and the radiator is secure. It's a pretty nice little system. So that's what we're aiming for here. Put that back on there so I don't lose it. And yeah, I'm gonna take this here shroud off if I can. I'm gonna get the camera clamp so I can there's some bad spots to clamp. There we go. Get this thing out of here. So I will be reusing this fan shroud on the truck. So I won't be using the fan shroud that originally came with the C10. I'm actually going to be reusing this exact one. All right. I think the last thing I got to do, well, pull off this plastic valence fill piece thing that is on the front side, the plastic clips that held the harness across the back side of the core support, and then looks like one bolt here and one bolt on the other side, and they should come out. That's a long bolt too. That is one heck of a bolt, fully threaded. You don't need that much thread on this thing. The grip length of the bolt is defined as the smooth shaft portion of it that isn't threaded. Your grip length can be as big as the gap between where your nut is going to sit and the upper mounting surface. So all this extra thread that they manufactured on this bolt is not doing anything.
think this is the airbag sensor. So surprisingly enough, with as nasty of a wreck that this thing was in, it did not deploy. Yeah, airbag sensor. Mounted to the bottom of the core support. Take this whole thing off, and I'm only going to use one tiny little section of it. All right, I think I'm going to finish up with the last little interesting thing I found when I got the radiator and core support out of here. Whenever I got this truck, the steering wheel free spins, and I knew it had been rear-ended, and the front end actually got pushed in and smashed. And you can see there, like the wheel is all bent up there. But when the right front wheel hit whatever it hit when this thing got rear-ended as hard as it did, I know why it free spins the steering column. So I was looking down in here, I saw a pitman arm right here. That is sheared right in half. Just smashed it. So kind of cool to see. And it's also interesting to see on here that there's a steering damper, kind of like you'd see on a 4x4 truck, you know, like solid axle truck or something. I've seen in like LMC trucks catalog where they offer the steering damper and they say 2 or 4-wheel drive. Well, now I've seen it in a factory 2-wheel drive application, so apparently it does something. So maybe I'll grab one of those and put it on. Who knows? Probably not though. But yeah, this was certainly interesting to see, because that is what is that, 1/8 or something? Yeah, somewhere between 1 inch to 1 1/4. I haven't measured exactly, but yeah, sheared right off. I think that's pretty cool to see. And something interesting, that 45-degree angle that it's sheared is exactly what you expect to see when you have a shear breakage on something like that that's hardened. On a metal that's ductile, you would expect to see some twisting or something like that. With hardened metal, the tensile strength goes up for the ultimate tensile strength on it, but your yield strength is also really high close to it. So it won't yield when a force is applied until a really high force is applied, but once you reach that point, it goes from yielding to just breaking very quickly. So that's your thing of like brittle materials. Ductile materials, the yield point is much lower than its ultimate tensile breaking point. So on this piece, you can tell it's a hardened, you know, high tensile strength steel part because of the way that it broke. So just thought it was an interesting thing to point out. You don't see that all the time. I think that'll about wrap it up for this one. What we got coming up next, those next several videos are going to be dealing with body work. So I'll be doing like spraying some high build polyester primer surfacer on a lot of the panels that I've got straightened up. I've got most of the like filler work done on the hood that was dinged up and golf balled like crazy. So that's about ready to go. I've got the rear fenders filled and sanded down and cleaned up, ready for the primer surfacer, the last step there, the body work portion of it. The cab is about ready to have the filler put on. I have a few spots left where I did some weld repair on the rocker panel for the lower pinch weld that I forgot about cleaning the welds up, so I gotta grind that down and clean it up. But yeah, we'll be doing paint and body work on the truck for the next couple videos, and then jump back into LS swap stuff after that. But the temperature is just right in the near forecast for me to be able to do the paint work that I need to do before it heats up too hot out here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.